You want to know one of the most powerful moves you can make in life? Stop telling everyone everything. I know that sounds a little harsh at first, especially when you're someone who feels deeply, who wants connection, who wants people to understand where you're coming from. But here's the truth. The more you talk, the more you give away the parts of you that should have stayed yours. Not because you're hiding, but because your growth, your dreams, your healing, they deserve protection. They deserve peace. And sometimes peace looks like silence. There's this need we all feel to explain ourselves, to justify every decision, to get advice, to be validated. But let me ask you something. How many times have you shared your heart with someone only to feel more confused afterward? How many times did their opinion plant doubt instead of clarity? It's not because they're bad people. It's because your vision is yours. Your healing is yours. And some things are too sacred to be discussed prematurely. When you share everything, you open the door to judgment, comparison, even sabotage. Not always intentionally, but that little comment someone makes, it stays with you. That eyebrow raise, it lingers, and suddenly you're questioning the very thing you felt so sure about. I'm not saying isolate yourself. I'm not saying never talk to anyone. What I am saying is, learn the power of keeping some things for yourself. That business idea you're working on, let it grow in silence. That personal change you're going through, let it breathe before you explain it. That next move you're planning, don't tweet it, build it. Then show them the results. You know what silence does? It keeps you focused. It keeps you from getting distracted by other people's noise. It creates a space where your own voice becomes the loudest in the room. And that's the voice you need to be listening to. Not the one that's trying to impress people, not the one that needs permission, the one that says, I've got this, and I don't need anyone to understand it right now. Because here's the real truth. People don't need a front row seat to your process. They only need a ticket when the show's ready. Let them see the strength in your actions, not the insecurity in your constant explanations. You owe no one your full story. You owe yourself your own peace. And peace, real peace, comes when you start building silently and let your success make the noise. So the next time you feel that urge to tell everyone your plans, your dreams, your struggles, pause. Ask yourself, does this need to be said, or do I just need to trust myself a little more? You don't need applause for every step. You just need momentum. Keep moving, quietly, relentlessly, and watch what happens when the world starts noticing, not because you told them, but because you showed them. When you have a dream, a goal, a plan, something that sparks a fire inside you, your first instinct might be to talk about it, to share it with someone close, to post it, to announce it, because it feels exciting and sharing makes it feel real. You want others to know what you're working toward. You want their support, their encouragement, their validation, and it makes sense. We're human. We crave connection. But here's what most people never tell you. Talking about your vision too soon is often the quickest way to weaken it. Because what you're building, whether it's a dream, a business, a better version of yourself, is fragile at the beginning. It's like planting a seed. It needs silence, protection, and time to take root. If you expose it too early before it's strong enough to stand on its own, it becomes vulnerable. Vulnerable to wind, vulnerable to doubt, vulnerable to other people's fears, their projections, their criticism, even when they mean well. Sometimes the people you share your vision with won't react the way you hoped. They'll question it, dismiss it, or worse, they'll tell you why it's unrealistic, why it won't work, why you can't do it. And it doesn't matter how confident you were 5 minutes ago, their doubt starts whispering in your ear. And now you're second-guessing something that used to feel right in your gut. And it's not just about doubt. Sometimes, when you speak your vision out loud, you trick your brain into feeling like you've already achieved something. It gives you a rush, a hit of dopamine, and you confuse talking about the thing with actually doing the thing. So you stop, or you slow down, or you feel less urgency, to take the hard, silent steps that real progress requires. You talked, you got the reaction, you felt seen, and that can be dangerous because that reaction becomes your reward, not the result, not the real work, not the quiet discipline of staying consistent day after day. But when you protect your vision, when you choose silence over applause, everything changes. You give yourself permission to grow without being watched, without being judged. You let your passion build in private. You create a space where your belief in yourself isn't diluted by outside voices, where your focus isn't pulled in 100 directions because you're not trying to manage everyone else's expectations. Silence becomes your armor. It keeps you grounded. It keeps your energy contained. And that energy, it's powerful. It becomes momentum. You stop wasting time explaining yourself. You stop looking around to see who's watching. You put your head down and you get to work. And here's the most beautiful part. When you finally let people see what you've been building, it speaks for itself. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to prove anything. The work, the results, do that for you. That's the kind of power you build when you protect your vision instead of sharing it too soon. You create something undeniable, something real. It's not about being secretive. It's not about isolating yourself. It's about being intentional. It's about knowing that your dreams don't need to be constantly discussed in order to be valid. You don't need to broadcast every step. You don't need a public audience for your private growth. You just need to trust yourself and trust that what you're building in silence will one day make enough noise on its own. So next time you feel that urge to talk about what you're working on, to share your plans, your goals, your vision, pause. Ask yourself, is this for me or is this for them? Is this fueling my growth or feeding my ego? Is this helping me stay focused, or is it a distraction in disguise? Because real power, real growth, real change happens when no one's clapping, when no one's watching, when no one even knows what you're doing. It happens in the quiet, in the early mornings, in the late nights, in the choices you make when no one's around to validate them. That's where success is born. That's where dreams take shape, not in the noise, but in the silence. And when you finally emerge, when the thing you've been building is ready to be seen, it won't need a grand introduction. People will feel it. They'll see the difference. They'll know something shifted, not because you told them, but because you became it. So protect your vision, guard your fire, and remember this: what you build in silence will always speak louder than what you announce in noise. You have to understand something very real. Not everyone deserves access to you, not to your thoughts, your dreams, your process, your pain, or your progress. We live in a world where oversharing has become the norm, where people feel pressure to post every move, every idea, every emotion, like somehow visibility equals value. But there is a quiet power in privacy, in choosing what parts of yourself you share and what parts you protect. Because your process, that sacred middle between who you were and who you're becoming, is vulnerable. It's raw. It's messy. It doesn't always make sense, even to you. So when you give other people front row seats to your transformation, you're giving them access to something they haven't earned the right to witness. And not because they're bad people, but because they're not you. They don't know what it took to even start. They don't understand the internal war you fight just to keep showing up. And the truth is, some people don't want to see you evolve. Your growth challenges their comfort. Your progress threatens their excuses. So when you let them too close, they start doing subtle things to make you shrink. They question your choices. They doubt your capacity. They minimize your goals in the name of just being realistic. You know what that does? It plants seeds of self-doubt. Suddenly, you're looking at your own journey through their eyes, and their limited perspective starts shaping your limitless potential. That's how powerful outside influence can be, if you let it in too early. There's also another layer to this. Some people love to be around you when you're struggling, when you're uncertain, because it makes them feel needed. It gives them control. So the moment you start breaking free, getting clear, moving forward, they get uncomfortable. Not always because they want to hold you back, but because your independence means they lose that sense of importance in your life. And sometimes, without even knowing it, they start pulling you back. Not with chains, but with concern, with discouragement masked as care. Are you sure this is a good idea? That seems risky. I just don't want you to get hurt. They're trying to comfort the old version of you that they were familiar with, not realizing you've outgrown that version, that you don't need to be coddled anymore. You need space. You need freedom. You need room to stretch, to fail, to rise, all without their commentary. That's why protecting your process is so important, not hiding. Protecting, there's a difference. Hiding is driven by fear. Protecting is driven by wisdom. When you protect something, it's because you value it. You understand its importance. You understand that it's still taking shape. And it doesn't need to be poked, prodded, or judged before it's ready. Think about it like this. When a butterfly is still in the cocoon, no one touches it. No one interrupts that process. Because we know how delicate it is. We know it needs time, pressure, and quiet to become what it's meant to be. You are no different. Your process is your cocoon, and not everyone should be allowed to peek inside while the transformation is still happening. You don't owe anyone an explanation for the way you choose to grow. You don't have to share your every move to prove you're making progress. Some things are more powerful when they unfold in private, when they're protected from commentary, when they're nurtured in solitude. The people who are meant to be part of your journey will understand your need for silence. They won't take it personally when you pull back. They won't demand access to your every thought. They'll support you from a distance, if that's what you need. And the ones who get offended by your boundaries? They were never cheering for your transformation anyway. They were just comfortable with your stagnation. You are allowed to outgrow spaces, conversations, and even relationships that no longer align with the version of yourself you are becoming. And you are allowed to do it without explanation, without apology, without performance. Give yourself permission to keep some things to yourself. Let your progress be between you and your purpose. Let your goals unfold behind the scenes. Let your healing be sacred. Because the more you protect your process, the stronger you become. The less noise you allow in, the more clearly you hear your own voice. And that voice, that's the one that matters. That's the one guiding you forward. That's the one that knows where you're going, even when no one else understands it. So protect it, honor it. And remember, your life is not a group project. Not everyone gets a say. Not everyone gets a seat at the table. Not everyone deserves access to the version of you that's still under construction. Keep building. Keep believing, keep becoming, silently, powerfully, and without needing to explain a thing. When you constantly share every thought, every feeling, every plan, and every struggle, you begin to spread your emotional energy in too many directions. And slowly, often without even realizing it, you become emotionally exposed. You open up doors for other people to walk through and take up space in places that were never meant for them. There's this belief that being transparent, being open, being vulnerable with everyone makes you more real, more connected. But the truth is, not every part of you is meant to be unpacked in front of an audience. Some parts need to be processed, healed, and strengthened within you first, before anyone else even gets a glimpse. We live in a world where we're conditioned to believe that sharing is healing. And yes, sometimes it is. But constant oversharing? That's something else entirely. That's often a cry for validation. That's the need to feel seen, understood, or comforted, not by yourself, but by others. You start handing pieces of yourself to people who haven't earned the right to hold them. You begin giving away your power, one story, one explanation, one overshare at a time. You ever notice how after a long conversation where you spill everything, your doubts, your insecurities, your plans, you often feel drained instead of uplifted? That's because your emotional bandwidth just got hijacked. You've handed it over in exchange for momentary relief. But the aftermath? It's heavy. And sometimes, it's full of regret. You start replaying what you said, how much you revealed, and whether they really understood or just judged you silently. That kind of vulnerability, when not offered with discernment, doesn't feel empowering. It feels exposing. And here's the most dangerous part of oversharing. It opens you up to feedback you didn't ask for and weren't ready to receive. You share your struggles, and suddenly people feel entitled to tell you how to fix them. You share your dreams, and now you're on the receiving end of opinions from people who've never done what you're trying to do. You share your pain, and they either minimize it or magnify it based on their own bias, not your truth. So now, instead of working through your emotions with clarity and self-awareness, you're stuck sorting through the noise of other people's reactions. You've blurred the line between genuine connection and emotional exposure. And somewhere in all of that, you start to lose trust in your own inner voice. Real strength isn't found in constantly talking through everything with everyone. It's found in the stillness, in learning how to hold your own hand, in learning how to sit with your emotions, process them, and move through them without needing to narrate every step to the world. That's not isolation, that's maturity, that's emotional discipline. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing, not because you're hiding, but because you're choosing to protect your energy. You're choosing to be intentional with who you allow into your inner world. You're choosing to respect the sacredness of your own experience. Because not everyone is safe. Not everyone listens with empathy. Not everyone knows how to hold space for someone else's truth without making it about themselves. It's okay to outgrow the need to explain yourself. It's okay to stop updating everyone on your every emotion or plan. You don't owe anyone that level of access. What you owe to yourself is peace, stability, inner alignment, and you can't maintain those things when your emotions are constantly out on display, waiting to be commented on, picked apart, or misunderstood. You are allowed to be a private person with a deep heart. You are allowed to move through things internally, to process in solitude, to keep some of your best thoughts, most honest feelings, and sacred moments just for you. That doesn't make you distant. It doesn't make you cold. It makes you whole. Oversharing creates emotional noise. It creates mental clutter. It invites opinions and energy that don't belong in your space. And with every overshare, you give someone else the power to shape how you see your own life. That's too high a price for a moment of feeling seen. You don't need to narrate every emotion to heal. You don't need to broadcast every decision to be validated. You don't need to constantly unpack your soul in front of people who wouldn't even know what to do with it. So take a breath. Pull your energy back. Let your emotions breathe without putting them on stage. Let your story unfold without asking for an audience. The most important conversations you'll ever have are the ones you have with yourself. The healing you do when no one's watching. The strength you build when you choose to sit in your silence and still feel whole. Let that be enough. Let your inner peace become your priority, and let the world see only what's ready, not everything you're still working through. You're not obligated to be emotionally available to everyone. You are allowed to keep parts of yourself sacred, safe, and silent, because not everything is meant to be shared. Some things are meant to be lived, grown through, and protected by you, for you. There's something incredibly powerful about choosing silence over speaking. When you stop explaining yourself, stop sharing every move, stop trying to make everyone understand what you're doing or why, you create space, not just space from the noise outside, but space for something deeper inside. You start to hear your own voice again, the real one, not the one that's shaped by other people's opinions, not the one that's constantly asking, "What will they think?" but the one that whispers from your gut and tells you, "This is the way. Keep going." When you're always talking, always justifying, always proving, your energy is scattered, you're focused on being seen rather than being centered. And the problem with that is, the more you need others to see your effort, the less you stay rooted in the actual work. But when you go quiet, when you stop making announcements and start building behind the scenes, something shifts. You stop looking for approval. You stop craving applause. And instead, you become obsessed with progress. Real, quiet, consistent progress. Silence forces you to rely on your own validation. And at first, that's uncomfortable. You'll catch yourself reaching for your phone to post an update. You'll start to say something to someone and stop. You'll feel that urge to let someone in on your plan, and you'll have to resist it. But as you do, you'll begin to notice a new kind of strength building inside you. The kind of strength that doesn't depend on anyone else's reaction to stay alive. That silence, that's not emptiness, it's not avoidance, it's focus, it's intentional, and it's where real momentum begins. Because without distraction, without noise, you can finally hear what matters. You can hear your own thoughts clearly. You can adjust your strategy without feeling the pressure to explain the change to anyone. You can pivot without guilt. You can fail quietly, learn deeply, and try again, without shame, without judgment, and without fear of someone saying, "I told you so." And eventually, you start to trust yourself on a level you never did before. You're no longer looking around for direction. You become the direction. You become the compass. You stop waiting for someone to say, "Yes, go for it." You've already gone, you've already started, and you didn't need a green light because you realized you are the green light. You also start to notice how little other people really needed to know in the first place. Most of the time, we over-explain out of fear. We fear being misunderstood. We fear looking like we don't have it all figured out. But silence kills that fear, because when you learn to be misunderstood and stay grounded anyway, you become unshakable. When you can be doubted and still move forward, you become powerful. And when you stop explaining your every move and just let your actions do the talking, you become someone that people start to notice, not because you were loud, but because you were consistent. There is something magnetic about a person who moves with quiet certainty, who doesn't need to boast, doesn't need to be loud, but just shows up and delivers. That kind of presence commands respect. It makes people lean in, and by the time they notice what you're doing, it's already done. You're already further along than they thought possible, and you didn't waste time explaining how or why. You just did it. But this kind of focus only comes when you stop leaking your energy through your words. Every time you explain yourself, you give away a little piece of your momentum. Every time you share prematurely, you open yourself to opinions that might derail your clarity. Every time you seek external validation, you put your own belief on pause. And here's the truth. Success doesn't need a spotlight to grow. It needs discipline. It needs dedication. It needs patience, all of which thrive in silence. You want to know what the loudest thing in the room is? Results. You don't need to talk when your work speaks for itself. You don't need to prove when your progress is undeniable. That's the kind of energy you build when you let go of the need to explain, and instead, you commit to becoming. So start holding things closer to your chest. Let your energy speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your elevation speak. Because when you move in silence, your actions become sharp. Your direction becomes clear. Your growth becomes undeniable. You don't need noise. You don't need constant affirmation. You don't need to narrate your journey every step of the way. What you need is inner confidence, the kind that doesn't scream, the kind that doesn't broadcast, the kind that simply knows. So stop waiting for people to clap for your potential. Just show them the outcome. Stop needing people to understand your path. Just walk it in silence, with clarity, with purpose. And when the time is right, your results will do the talking, and they'll be louder than anything you could have said.